Tired of bloating, fatigue and sluggish digestion? Meet your gut's new best friend, NutriHealth 365's microbiome supplement. Restore balance, boost immunity, and feel amazing from the inside out. Smart delay release capsules. Real results. Gut health just got personal.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's episode of Trending. We've got more emails from Jeffrey Epstein. We've got Donald Trump begging the Israelis to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu in his corruption trial. And also, we've got biological war drills in the United Kingdom. Buckle up. Welcome to this morning's episode of Trending, as always brought to you in association with NutriHealth 365. The link is in the description below. Okay, let's start off with Donald Trump. Trump spent hours with victim at Epstein's house, emails allege. A 2011 email sent by convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein says that US President Donald Trump spent hours with one of the victims. An allegation that is likely to further fuel calls for releasing the files related to the late disgraced financier. The files that Donald Trump promised to release if you only elected him president for a second time. The email, made public by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday, was sent to Epstein's former girlfriend, Mossad agent and daughter of Mossad agent Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year jail sentence for sex trafficking. Nice woman. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then it says victim because it's redacted, but as I understand it, it's Virginia Gaufret, but that is also a bit of speculation, but it's speculation that's being said left, right and centre. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. So I'll just go with redacted at this point. Spent hours at my house with him. He's never once been mentioned, Epstein wrote, according to the email, which was shared with the victim's name redacted. As I say, it's people seem to be suggesting it's Virginia Gaufret, who, of course, apparently committed suicide just a few months ago in a real bizarre situation. If you remember that, ladies and gentlemen, where she had a car crash which put her basically days from death, but then the driver of the other vehicle came out and went, well, that's not how it happened. It was basically just a little prank. Look, here's the photo evidence of it. And then suddenly she disappeared and then she committed suicide, having previously said that she wouldn't commit suicide, and if anything happened to her, it was murder, something that's also been, repeated since her death by her father. I'll be honest, I don't buy she took her own life. It's just a little bit too convenient. It's not clear what Epstein was referring to in terms of the dog that hasn't barked. The email was sent to Maxwell 2 years after Epstein had spent 13 months in prison for sex crimes. Maxwell responded, I've been thinking about that. Thinking about how they can use it as leverage, I imagine. Because let's have it right, Epstein and Maxwell were running a blackmail operation on behalf of Mossad, on behalf of the CIA, because when you go high enough, these two organisations morph into one. The same with British intelligence. They all do, because they all answer to the same nutcases. So you have to ask the question at that point. Bear in mind, this is 2011. So it's 5 years before Donald Trump becomes president for the first time. So you have to ask the question, was this the point when Epstein, Maxwell and the people they're working for realised that actually we can have a bit of an asset here in Donald Trump. We can use this. He becomes president and instantly becomes, in his own words, the most pro-Israel president in American history. It doesn't matter what they ask for. Well, they don't ask, do they? They demand. Whatever they demand, he'll give it to them. Whatever. Shirt off my back? Yeah, have it. Which is weird for someone who's supposed to be an outsider, who's his own man. Of course, he's not his own man, is he? In another email sent in 2019, Epstein says Trump knew about the girls. Well, of course he did. I mean, that's obvious. There's enough pieces of evidence, comments made by Trump himself, and letters between the two of them, including birthday cards, where he's talking about, keeping secrets, talking about girls, obviously, and women, young, beautiful women, and then talking about keeping secrets, which is not normal. I don't know about you. I'll be honest, I'm not a birthday card sender. I never have been. I'll just send a message. Happy birthday, mate. I've never sent a message to any of my old mates. Well, I've also never had mates in the past and then denied they were my mates, despite all the photographs and videos of me having a laugh with them. I mean, Trump's done that, but I haven't done that. But if it's someone's birthday, I'll send them a message and go, happy birthday, mate. Hope you have a good one. I've never once gone, happy birthday, mate. Have a good one. Do you know what I love about you? You keep secrets. Cheers, mate. Later on Wednesday, Trump dismissed the emails as a hoax. Of course he did, without actually addressing any of the substance in the emails. Well, he never does he? Because everything's a hoax to Trump, isn't it? Everything except COVID, that was real. That was deadly. And that's why, you need to get his warp speed shot. It's the greatest shot in the world, man. The Democrats are trying to bring up, this is what he's written on his Truth Social. The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. It's not a hoax, mate. Again, because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects, he wrote on his Truth Social post. It's not just Democrats, mate. It's people within your own party and a huge swathe of MAGA supporters that actually believed you, bizarrely, given you're a serial liar, but actually believed you when you said, vote for me, mate, and I'll release all the Epstein files. Because actually, most MAGA, despite all the smears and all that sort of stuff, are actually decent people, really. And they don't really like sex traffickers, and they don't really like elite, well, they don't like any paedophilia, but they certainly don't like their paedophiles being people that rule over them and are in positions of power. So that would have been a pretty big pull to vote for you, Donald. You saying you were going to release those files, and of course you knew that. You knew that it was a big pull, and you knew that people would vote for you on the back of that. But you also knew you were never going to release them because you knew you're in them. And also, as I've said multiple times, you don't give up for Mossad. You don't give up a blackmail operation. So they were never going to allow all the files to be released. Wasn't going to happen. The US president also cautioned members of his Republican Party against focusing on the emails. Don't look at the emails, mate. Don't. Look over there. That's it. Focus on that, mate. Honestly, it's laughable. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else. It's not a deflection. It's actually a really big deal for anyone that's not a complete psychopath, Donald. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats, Trump wrote. It's amazing, isn't it? He talks about not deflecting, yet that's exactly what he's doing. And he's also writing it on Truth Social, because he's not answering questions from the press. And if you've seen the press conference where they're trying to ask him questions about it, obviously, this is a huge story. They're trying to ask him questions because that's their job, and occasionally journalists do their job, not often enough, but occasionally. So they've tried to ask questions. He's not answering any of them, obviously, because he can't. And so his press officers are actively removing those journalists from the press briefing. Get out. You've asked the wrong question. This is a democracy. You don't get to ask the right questions. You get to ask the questions I want to answer. Have you seen I've got a new ballroom? It's beyond obvious at this point. I mean, it was beyond obvious anyway, but we're just going even further beyond it. It's in the distance, the obvious, that Trump is up to his neck in this Epstein cesspit. And I would suggest, actually, it's probably why, or one of the many reasons, but one of the reasons why he was allowed to be elevated to the role of President of the United States. Because what's crazy is so many people that now, well, less so, let's have it right, people are starting to see it, but supported Trump, and some still do support Trump as the President of the United States, despite all the evidence and everything that he's done and everything he's said since he's come into office, everything he's lied about, and all this, obviously, this Epstein stuff, they used to be of the opinion that presidents and prime ministers and leaders are, in all their different guises, are selected, not elected. So every previous president, Obama, Biden, George W. Bush, whoever, was selected, not elected. They're put in a position of power, and voting is basically just, it's this little illusion. Go on, let them go into a booth and put an X in a box. I know it'd be funny. Yeah, they'll queue outside in the rain and all. It's funny, isn't it? Just to give people this illusion of choice. But actually, their man is getting the gig no matter what. They used to think like that. They don't think like that with Trump, a lot of them, for some reason. But it's still the case. And Donald Trump wouldn't have been allowed to become president, not just once, but twice, if he wasn't malleable, if he wasn't someone that they could use. Now, of course, he's great to create division. Trump's amazing for that in society, because you will very rarely meet, and I'll be honest with you, I've never met someone, and I've said this before, I've never met someone that's gone, Donald Trump, yeah, he's all right. You either love him to the point where you were like, excuse everything, and you'll put your red, it's okay when we do it baseball cap on, or you despise him and you think he's Hitler, basically. There's no one in the middle, which is great for division, because they are some hella polarities. There's no one really in the middle going, oh, he's right. It's just like another president, isn't it? They're all the same. No one says that. It's one or the other. So he's great for creating division, which of course is part of why he's there. But he wouldn't be there if he wasn't controllable. If he was genuinely this rogue guy that you had absolutely no leash on. Now, a bit of rogue is fine, because he'll do some crazy, chaotic stuff and cause chaos. That's fantastic. But there needs to come a point where you can go, all right, reel him in then. Reel him in. Because you don't want him to go too off script, because then you lose control of the game. And narcissists are all about control. Psychopaths are all about controlling situations. So they were never going to let a real rogue outsider, unless they had something on him that they knew that at any point they could just go, all right, it's gone too far now. Bosh, bosh, bosh. In he comes. Now, of course, also on top of that, part of it was, as we've spoken about many times, about bringing in an outsider. And we're seeing that happening now, the same play happening now, nearly 10 years later in the UK with the likes of Reform. They're being, promoted as sort of the outsider. They're not the establishment. Because what happened in America in around 2014, 2015, 2016 was people realised it was a one-party state. Not a two-party state. They'd realise that was pretty obvious. But a one-party state where actually it didn't matter who you voted for, the government would get in. Didn't matter who you voted for, the Israel lobby, AIPAC and others would get in. Didn't matter who you voted for, the corporations would get in. And you would have less money in your pocket and less freedoms. Doesn't matter what side. One would have a pride flag on, the other one wouldn't. Apart from that, same thing. So they realised that was a problem in terms of democracy and people believing in it. Because as soon as you stop believing in it and you stop partaking in it, you stop voting in huge numbers, huge enough numbers, there's a bit of a problem there. Because if I've got a chessboard, I need the buggers playing. And if people go, it's a game of chess, mate. These are controlling. I'm out. As soon as that happens in enough numbers, there's a problem. So we need to get everyone back on the chessboard again. Everyone to believe in the game again. And the way to do that is to make them believe that actually there isn't someone above them moving them around in pieces. We need an outsider. So you give us Donald Trump. He's an outsider. Yeah, he's famous enough, with The Apprentice and, telling Macaulay Culkin which way to go in the Plaza Hotel. He's famous enough that people won't go, why am I voting for this dude? I don't even know who he is. But he's also not within the political sphere enough to be, he's just another Republican. He's just another Democrat. They're all the same. He's an outsider. And he came on the stage and he is a salesman. He's a used car salesman. That's what he is. So he was very good at selling himself, saying all the things that people wanted to hear, which is the most dangerous thing, to be honest. telling everyone what they wanted to hear. And they went, this guy, he's an outsider. He comes in, what does he do? Nothing. Warp speed. And so, okay, well, what we're going to do then? We need to get him out for a bit. Because people are starting to twig that actually maybe this dude isn't an outsider. I know, we'll get Biden in. Make it so obvious that election was rigged. Make it so obvious that, everyone can see it. Get a load of dead people to vote. Yeah, that'll do. Get Biden in there. A senile, absolute waste of space to drag everything down even further and make everything even worse with his 4 masks on, or however many masks he wore in the end, God knows. So that then people start to, okay, maybe Trump was. Because it's the equivalent of getting slapped in the face and going, oh, that's horrible, bring Biden in. Getting punched in the face and going, that slap was all right, actually. Still a slap, mate. So they started to turn towards Trump again. Okay, but I don't know. We've had 4 years of that and it wasn't great. I'm not really sure I trust. Okay, well, what we'll do then is we'll make him look like an outsider again. So we'll rig an election against him and make it obvious, because that makes him look like an outsider, like they were desperate to get rid of him. Then we'll bring in all these charges, all these indictments, and all these, he's going to go to jail and all this kind of stuff. Oh, mate, they're going for him. The deep state, they'd only go for him if he was a threat to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't go for him. Yeah, he is an outsider. Okay. Maybe he is then. So you've got all these legal cases. So people start to come around. Then he gets shot in the ear, in his magical healing ear. And then everyone, and I remember saying it at the time, well, he's president then. He's just been elected president then and there. Everyone goes, oh, mate, he's definitely an outsider. They tried to kill him. Oh, right, he's got my vote, get him in. And he comes in, and what happens? But think about it, ladies and gentlemen. If they didn't want him to be president, he wouldn't be. Because we already know that they can fix elections. Because you were all claiming, quite rightly, that they did that to get Biden in. So why not do it again? Why not just do it again? Why not put someone up against him that people might actually vote for? Unlike Kamala Harris. Incredibly unlikable. They weren't even trying, mate. So you put Trump up against someone who no one likes, and not even Democrats like her. You decide not to fix the election, even though you've done it previously and you know you can do it again. All the legal cases, all of them, just disappear, gone. Okay, well, that's fine then. But you didn't have to make them disappear. But you did, so he could become president again. Okay. And then, in terms of the shooting him in the ear, oh, it was God that saved him. Which God? Why not hire an actual assassin? If it was a deep state assassination attempt, why did they hire some scruffy-faced, greasy-haired plonker? Why? Why not a top hitman, Bosch? No one seems to answer that question. Okay, it's pretty obvious that kid was allowed to get up on the roof. All those people, giving testimony saying, look, we were telling the police that this guy had climbed up there. No one did anything about it. So, okay, you let him take the shot. But why would you hire some spotty-faced kid? Why not just an assassin, bang, done? Because he wasn't meant to be. He wasn't meant to be shot. He wasn't meant to be killed. He was meant to have his ear nicked, saved by God, and then elevated to this, oh my goodness me. Yeah, maybe he is alternative. Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. Having said that, as I said on Tuesday, talking about, Benjamin Netanyahu with his smirk when the lady in the Knesset is going at him for the demon that he is. He smirks because he thinks he's untouchable, but no one is untouchable, and Donald Trump is not untouchable at all. He's done a great job in terms of what they wanted to happen, to a point. But once people turn on him enough, and his supporters are, and this Epstein, yet another Epstein revelation ain't going to do him any favours, people within the Republican Party are starting to go, hang on. Now you've got the Democrats as well pushing and releasing certain things against him. You know, the United States, and this is coming from someone in Britain, Britain's on its backside. The United States is not in a great place. You've got all this nonsense going on in Venezuela now as well. It's so obvious that he's controlled by Israel and people are done with it. I would say bordering on most of MAGA is, apart from the MAGA that's already rabidly pro-Israel, most of MAGA is done with that Israel first nonsense, because make America great again, isn't it? So he's not in a great place at the moment. So it wouldn't shock me, ladies and gentlemen, if they just go, do you know what? Okay, the dog's barked now. The dog's barked out. And actually, maybe it's time for J.D. Vance, who has been elevated to this position, one by the Israel lobby, so they've still got their man there, but also by the likes of Peter Thiel and the Technocracy Inc. and the AI agenda, which he is well and truly behind. Wouldn't shock me at all if more things come out that, you know, maybe sort of does for Trump a little bit. Wouldn't shock me at all. I'll tell you who does know exactly what's in the Epstein files, by the way, and that will relate to the next story, is Benjamin Netanyahu. Because if and there's no if about it, if Epstein and Maxwell are working on behalf of the Mossad, then all that information and all those videotapes from all those cameras in all those rooms in Epstein's multiple properties and bedrooms are all in the hands of the Mossad. They've got all the leverage. And like I say, that may well apply to the next story. So thanks so much for watching on all the social media outlets. You can continue watching for free if you head over to iconic.com. The link is in the description below.